What's going on, boys? Welcome back to another episode of Skimmerlit tries to understand and get along with FI. We're also going to talk a bit about TE because I am prepared to say SE is probably the most misunderstood function. Most things attributed to SE are actually TE. But starting with FI. FI is generally selfish trash. Even when it thinks it's being selfless, you can see everything it does promoting a carefully constructed internal self-image, and it doesn't even realize it's doing it. Side note / homework, ask an FI type what they're thinking about when they are sleeping with someone. The number of answers along the lines of, I'm so good to this person, or this person wants me so badly, or I'm verbing my noun to this person, surprised and disgusted me. But these are things we already know about standard to low-end FI. Everything is about imposing the standard to low-end FI user's self-image. On one hand, it is gross and obnoxious. On another hand, it can be destructive. It often is destructive. FE, on the other hand, on all levels, is about everyone reaching a mutual, agreed upon form of behavior. There will be conflict, but there will be a resolution. People will be unhappy, but a social norm will be established and regulated. If everyone were FI types, reality would be a war nightmare. If everyone were FE types, reality would be a stagnant hyper nightmare. If you want people to get along in a state of normalcy, disregarding what that normalcy might be, FE is the function you opt for. FE will keep the stupid FI types in line and probably won't massacre each other, but that reality might not be happy. The norm you establish might not be a good one. That's FE's limitation. It's a compromise. FE is observing, predicting, and acting according to everyone else in the vicinity. It can be swayed, and its conclusions are based on other people's conclusions. Everything is a reaction. That problem is where a special strain of high-end FI comes in. This strain of FI accomplishes everything FE in theory aspires toward, but fails to achieve. Standard and low-end FI are all about this self-imposition thing. FE is about establishing an acceptable norm, something that's not going to be fucked with. FE might aspire toward making everything good, but that is difficult when you are involuntarily taking everyone else's moods and opinions into account. Not necessarily in a friendly way. I mean, with FE, you can't not pay attention to other people. This strain of high-end FI is unlike standard and low-end FI and all levels of FE because it is focused on good. What constitutes good might be subjective for each person, but this level this strain of FI reaches is not. This strain of FI is fixated on doing whatever that good is, being whatever that good is. Unlike standard and low-end FI, this strain of FI seems to have gotten its core from somewhere else altogether. Typically, FI generates a self-image, becomes infatuated with it, then forces it onto other people. This strain of FI I'm discussing, if the world is suspended by ropes, and the ropes are things that are good, worth believing in, worth being, then this strain of FI takes one of those ropes and does that. It's strange because there seems to be very little self involved in it. Again, like it came from somewhere else. If you're an FE type and you look at most FI types, you can smell ego stink on them no matter what they're doing. With these FI types, that isn't there, and you can observe them as long as you want. It's not going to come up. I mean, I'm sure it is there if you could hold them down and dissect them, because that's human nature, but you won't pick it up otherwise, and it seems not to affect their attunement with whatever the thing is they're embodying. There's also a distinct lack of the standard FI imposition / conquest shit. These FI types are doing whatever they're doing to further whatever the mission is, and it has almost nothing to do with self-image or forcing things on people. I'm having a hard time describing this because I don't fully understand this sort of FI, and if you're an FE type, they smell completely different. Their vibes are completely different. They're almost alien in their goodness. And it ain't no thing. It's not a performance. It's their natural state. You're not watching a play, which is how dealing with most FI types feels. You are noticing a stream or seeing a tree. They are doing good things because they are naturally aligned with whatever goodness is. Unlike standard and low-end FI, they are not imposing self-image. Unlike all levels of FE, they are not compromising. If you're an FE type and you want to do good and there are 5 bad people in the room, your outcome is going to be bad, because even though you want to do good, you are accounting for the bad people. This strain of FI does not do that. It will stay focused on and moving toward whatever is good in a machine-like way. I have encountered fewer of these people than I have fingers on one hand. What does this mean in practical terms? Let's use some examples. One of these people was one of my professors. I'll bet he was an ENTJ. He seemed like an alien. He smelled completely different. His vibes were completely different. It's like he didn't exist. He helped me out of a dark spot with more help and more comprehensive help than anyone up to that point ever had. And that got me suspicious. What is this? Are you setting me up? How are you benefiting from helping me? People do not help like this unless they are getting something out of it. So for the next year and a half, I watched him and gathered information on him. This was enough of a what the fuck is this moment to warrant that, in my mind. And in a shitty, petty way, I was looking for flaws. Anything to say, okay, this is what makes him a bad person. There's no way a person this good can exist. I need to find the bad. And while I'm sure the bad is there somewhere, the good was so constant and overwhelming, good for good's sake, at every possible opportunity, good when nobody else would see or care under normal circumstances, I had to throw my hands up by the end and reluctantly place this person in the just a good person category. Helped other people directly, constantly, above and beyond in an already busy schedule. Helped everyone indirectly. Made sure everything was in working order at the highest level so they could do what they needed to do and felt they were taken seriously. And then the big kicker, as far as I can tell, never asked anything of anyone in return for all this constant support. But, interestingly, many people marched to his tune, including me, without his ever asking. You know how most quotes lead by example? People just do one or two things, expecting everyone to start doing it, and then they never do it again? Non-righteous shit? This professor was an actual lead by example person. And it created results because people aspired to be like that or to ease the burden. Using memetics to propagate positive behavior without any form of propaganda, without any force. It was strange, and part of me thinks that was intentional, that was a move, a high-end strategic move, but another part of me thinks that is just a thoroughly good person worth aspiring to be like. And I say that because of example 2, an INFP. And most of the other people in my little handful are INFPs. This example follows an almost identical story. Seems like too good a person to exist. Smells different, vibes different. Let's analyze this dude until we can find what's wrong with him. And what's wrong never really came. Now, there were little things, but at no point did this dude act or smell like a standard FI type. The motive was never, I'm so this, and you better do that for me or I'll cause you problems. It was always, this is the right thing to do, and we're gonna do that. I have a deep hatred for standard and low-end FI. I can smell that shit if it pops up in the smallest degree at any point. It never popped up. I never smelled it. That doesn't mean it isn't there, but I eagle-eyed this dude for a long time. and at no point did his vibes or smell stink. Now, those are the examples. What does this mean? Even though an objective good doesn't exist, there are a few measurable counterpoints to the piles and piles of bad. Statistically speaking, most types are FI types, and most FI types are standard and low-end FI types. If you are an FE type, you will probably feel superior to them, because at least you don't drag your club around and beat people over the head for lies you tell yourself. Now, that might make you feel above them a little bit, but you are still a disgusting, reprehensible wretch. Most of your best is not doing the bad things. And even when you try to do good things, you are thrown off by all the bad. Because you're an FE type, you are taking all the bad into account and trying to build a comfortable normalcy in it. Not really to make anything better or to be a greater person. Not for yourself, but for whatever is, quotes, good, maybe. And the fact good is such a shaky, relative term to you, in theory and in spirit, because maybe it is, probably it is, really it is, but that doesn't change the fact there is something good, or there are some kinds of good that are definitely good, probably, and now you've seen there are a few people who are dedicated to making that good happen. And despite everything that could go wrong on the quest for good, they have managed to make good happen without hurting people, which would make it not good, which is why you're shaky about good in the first place. They are single-mindedly making things better without creating more problems. How are they doing it? You have no idea, but they are. Paragons of your definition of good do exist. They set a standard worth aspiring toward. There isn't an ultimate, definitive form of good, but this person seems to embody a form of good that exists and works. Despite everything, and despite everything. With this video, I wanted to point out this exists. It comes from a strain of FI. It's worth keeping in mind when you are aspiring toward things. And, maybe most importantly, it indicates a way FI can work. It does not work like that most of the time, but it can work this way, and there is precedent for it. We were going to talk a bit about TE, but we'll save that for next time or maybe another time. This has been your latest episode of Skimmerlit tries to figure out how to get along with FI. But that about rippity wraps this one up. I hope you enjoyed watching, because I certainly enjoyed making it. I forgot to mention, I feel uncomfortable around this strain of FI. I feel like what I am taints what they are, and I don't like that. I like them, I don't like what I feel like my effect around them is. Like if you enjoyed, because it helps me out a lot. Subscribe if you haven't, because we do this shit sometimes, and comment your thoughts, because I love hearing from you. If you're an FE type, have you ever met anyone like this? Their vibes are completely different. It's like they don't exist. They stick out. Thanks again for watching our video. Really, we have a lot of fun on this channel. So much fun. In fact, you can fit it in under 20 minutes because this is a rambly but compact form of fun. That's how much fun we have on this channel. and I look forward to doing this with you guys again in the future.